Germany is in the news again. They have allowed yet another brown man from a brown country, specifically Afghanistan, to kill more of their German citizens. This most recent terrorist attack took place in Munich, Germany, where he drove a car into a crowd, funny enough, of left wing demonstrators who were advocating for open borders. And they had a direct consequence that they suffered at the hands of their own idiocy. And the only people I feel sorry for in this particular situation are the kids. And J.D. Vance soon after criticized Europe, saying that their biggest threat wasn't China or Russia, that it was free speech and mass immigration. Because if you've been following European news, uh, they're far more cucked than libtards here in America because they don't even allow people to criticize the grooming gangs, the rapists, uh, the killers, the rapers, the murderers, the terrorists, if they're from a brown country. And especially when you're talking about Germany, it's not just white guilt that they have to endure, or they don't have to, they choose to endure. It's Hitler guilt. So because of Hitler, they have to sit and be silent. I don't know, I guess until millions of Germans die. 6 million Germans have to die and get replaced before they're allowed to call it out. And the only opposition is this thing called the AFD. And the leader of that is some German white woman who's a lesbian married to a woman from a brown country. That's their biggest hope. I mean, this is utterly pathetic. And you see this a lot in Western Europe in particular, and also in Canada and in Australia, where the so called white people in these nations almost make it unbelievable that they descended from the Crusaders, World War fighters, colonizers. Because the utter suicidal mentality that drives this idiocy to allow your women and your children, particularly, to get stabbed to death, to get raped, to get ran over with automobiles, and not even acknowledge, and not be able to acknowledge who the killers are. I mean, there's literally a video, by the way, of this terrorist screaming Allah while being arrested. And again, J.D. Vance rightfully criticized all of Europe. And instead of being concerned with the citizenry, they're upset with J.D. Vance rightfully calling them out. And to me, I don't even see an election resolving this. This is a situation where it's going to take armed conflict to resolve, which goes to my question in the video title, why Europe might need a civil war, because that's the only thing that will bring about significant change. Because these people in charge are actively trying to create, or trying to kill, I should say, the native Europeans and create a mass replacement of said native Europeans. Basically, the white folks. And again, what makes it more disturbing is not that it's just the Browns who are obviously the Browns and blacks that obviously want to murder all the white Europeans, and the Jews who want to initiate that or enable that. It's the white Germans themselves. who do nothing about any of it. They don't do anything about the liberal Jew enablers, and they don't do anything about the brown and black murderers. And quite frankly, the United States still isn't too far off because in this country we have people who would rather their children be murdered and raped than be called racist. The only slight difference in the United States is that the browns and blacks born and bred in America are the main problem, not the illegals. So again, you have so-called Black Americans, Latino Americans who've been in America for generations, who are the top crime problem, with Negro Americans leading the charge. You know, and that's something that needs to be resolved. But again, just like with the Europeans, the Canadians, the Australians, it's the woke white cucks that just tolerate or enable, in some cases, outright cheerlead this terrorism on the West that are a major component as far as being a part of this problem that's going on. Because as we know, if you do this sort of activity in a brown or black country, especially if you're somebody so-called white doing it, but if you're American in general, you would get beat to death. You would get tortured to death, let alone life in prison, let alone deported. You get sent out the country, all right, sent out the country through the grave. Hell, you wouldn't even get a grave. Probably just burn your body and throw the ashes out into the dumpster, which would go out into the ocean. But yeah, I really do feel though that there's no hope for Europe unless they engage in, you know, armed conflict. And before Trump was elected, I felt that America was inching very close to that same thing as well. That's why it's really important for Trump to really put the pedal to the metal and resolve not just the illegal criminal situation, but the American born criminal situation as well. Because ultimately, that's the top priority. Because crime infects negatively everything else.